Happening.
It's happening. Welcome to Unfiltered Veterinary Discussions. Today is a special day because Dr. Beth and I, Jenny, are in charge by ourselves, and we have been set free, so we don't know what's going to happen, and we hope we're doing it all right. And so we're very excited. But today we're going to discuss a book called Let Them. But before we get to that, make sure that you are following Unfiltered Veterinary Discussions. You can Google us and learn all about all of the different co-hosts of this because there's a lot of us that are, it's a very wide variety. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think every social media platform. Like and subscribe. Make sure that you reach out and let us know what you want to hear about. And we are there for you. But we're going to get started talking about the Let Them Theory
I'm
by
so
Mel
excited about this
Robbins.
book.
Oh my gosh. So Beth and I have been geeking out on it and trying not to talk about it in other podcasts. And we're like, oh, we're going to wait so we can talk just the two of us because not everybody has read this book. But
Yeah.
I think I can honestly say everyone should read this book. So
Yes.
Beth, what got you started? Why did you want to read this book?
So I have seen Mel Robbins' name pop up and seen snippets of her because she has a podcast. And I've seen this book has been on my reading list for a little while. And I finally just felt motivated to pick it up and read it. And it definitely is, I feel like you and I are similar people, Jenny. We're very positive, sort of bubbly people, but I feel like people like us often really, really struggle with not feeling frustrated by those around us that aren't meeting our preset expectations, whether they're fair or not, or our family or our friends or people at work or whatever, that it is really hard to sometimes not take that to heart, either take it personally when they do something that upsets you or they let you down in some way. And this whole theory kind of helps you have a much better, healthier mindset about interacting with others and then also digging inside to find that your happiness is determined by you and you can't let it be determined by others. And that was sort of the premise of what got me into the book. And then there's so much more to the book, but I don't know. What about you? Do you feel
No,
the
I
same?
think same thing. I try and okay, this is unfiltered. Like to read, what do they call it? Romantasy, like
You're a
fantasy.
very smart person.
I
So
am a
am
very
I.
smart
So am
person.
I. Oh my God.
Okay, well, that's another podcast.
We're gonna have
But
a
so
whole nother podcast.
we can talk about dragons and all those things. But right, so I read those books
Yeah.
all the time. But I try and read something to better myself
Yeah.
in a different way. What I try, my goal was always one book once a month. And this is actually how Dr. Peter Weinstein and I really kind of started getting to know each other was he did a talk about 10 best books for leadership. And we started talking about what different books we were reading and things like that. So this book, The Let Them Theory, came out and I was like, oh, no, I remember. So in church, our church, I go to a Deerfield Community Church. It's a very liberal church. My pastor did a sermon series based on Let Them,
Oh,
which
cool.
was right. And I was like, and so I went to the first church service that he was doing the sermon series, and I was like, this this is what I'm talking about. I listen, I'm not going to lie. At church, I'm usually playing on my phone or coloring or something. I'm not always the best about paying attention, but I was like, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He talked about something and it was, like how to build up your children and how to kind of use this let them theory to help them realize that they are in charge of their own happiness.
Right.
And I was talking to my mom and I said, Mom, this is why every time my kids do something good, my words are, you should be so proud of yourself.
Right.
Not, I'm proud of you because I am. And I do say that, but I always start and end with, you should be so proud of yourself because
Right.
that's all that matters.
Right.
What do you think? Not what do your parents think? What do your
Right.
siblings think? What do your grandparents think? What do your team members think? What do your
Right.
clients think? What do you think?
Right.
You know? And so I started reading this book and I listened to it because I have the book because it's so powerful that when I do that, I buy the book as well as listen to it. But I loved listening to it because Mel reads it and I feel like just like on her podcast, right? Like she's talking to you. She's talking to
Yeah.
me. She's my
Yeah.
best friend,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I'd go to the grocery store, I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
I was in Arizona taking care of my in-laws for a little bit. I'm walking around and I'm listening. I'm like, I couldn't put it down or I couldn't stop listening to it. It was so impactful. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have said that I don't think there is a single person on this earth who couldn't get something out
I
of this
agree.
book.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think what I like about it too is like she breaks it down into all the different aspects of your life, like whether
Mhm.
it's trying to have self-confidence and find joy in yourself or dealing with relationships with others, whether it be like family or friends or even like husband-wife relationships, all of that, romantic relationships, everything. And she tries to help you figure out a way, to find your joy by not letting other people affect you so much. Like one of my favorite things that she breaks down is the whole comparison part where she talks about comparison. Because I do feel like that part really resonated with me because I think a lot of people's sense of self-worth almost comes from comparing themselves to one another. And I think that's one of the things like social media and the internet has been kind of a blessing and a curse because it allows you to very easily compare yourself to others. And comparison truly is the thief of joy. Like if you are looking at others and being like, wow, they got a brand new car and I can't afford that, or they went on this like bougie vacation and I can't do that. And then you automatically like feel lesser about yourself. Whereas her whole purpose is to say, let them do that. Like, if you see someone that you used to be really close with, they went away on vacation to this, like your dream vacation, instead of feeling jealous and being angry about it, like you have to say, like, have a better mindset about it. Like, say, let them. Like, I have no control over whether they went on that amazing vacation or not. The only thing I can control is how I behave about it. So by being angry and resentful, the only person it's bringing down is me. Whereas if you have a healthier mindset about it and you say, wow, that's really amazing. They must have worked really hard and good for them. And then channel that into a more positive energy of like, what can I do differently if I want to make that one of my goals? How can I save money or work towards it? Like, that's kind of like the key principle, in my opinion, of like what she's trying to say. And then you can apply that to literally any situation or relationship.
Everything. I think, yeah, so the two parts of it is let them and then let me,
Right.
right? So let them go on that vacation. Now let me figure out, is that a priority for me? If so, how can I make it happen? Or maybe it's not a priority. That's what I love is like
Yeah.
when people get jealous and you don't even really want it,
Right. Which is
right?
so true.
Right. Like, oh, I saw this on Instagram and it looks amazing. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't need my refrigerator. Like I love, do you ever I get sucked into those like Instagram things where they're like taking their groceries and putting them into neat little
Oh,
containers
yeah.
and then stocking their pantry and their pantry looks beautiful. And
Right.
I watch it and I'm like, okay, I would like my pantry to look like that, but also what a freaking waste of time.
Yeah.
Like it's not a priority for me. So
Right.
I don't need to worry about it. I
Right.
don't need to say, oh, if only I was better, I could take all my groceries and put them in little Tupperware things or I'm not organized like that. That's
Right.
okay.
Right.
So it's the let them, let me. And I think that was for me, I have been trying to teach this not even hearing literally the first I heard about this book was at the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
uh, or at the end of last year. Like I had never even heard of the theory before or the podcast, and then it blew up on social media and all that. And I think I have always tried to um, instill in my children and in my team, you cannot control other people. You can only
Right.
control yourself.
Right.
And this was a lesson taught to me senior year. I'm not going to say the year because it'll make me sound old. but it was not in the 2000s. And I took this class called Philosophy and Literature, and our teacher, Mr. Dave Miller, said, I said I was angry about something, or somebody made me angry. That's what I said. Somebody made me angry. And he goes, nope, you chose to be angry. And I was like, bullshit. I chose to be angry. Like, I did not choose this. You know,
Right.
this is a serious injustice.
I have
And
been
I,
wronged. I've been
oh,
wronged.
so right. Like I'm standing on my pedestal. I have been wrong. And it was, and he's like, and he's listening to me and he's like, and you chose to be angry about this. And he just kept saying it. And then of course I'm getting madder and madder.
Right.
But after I walked away from it, I'm like, I really did choose
Right.
to be mad. Like I really did choose to let myself feel so affronted.
Right.
And, this wrong has been done to me. And who cares?
Right.
Like, I can't even remember now what I was mad about.
Right.
So it clearly didn't really matter. But
Right.
we get ourselves so worked up. We get angry at people. We get let down by people. And I think you're right, Beth, in what we do, we own a business, right? We manage a business. And frequently, I feel let down by my clients.
Hmm.
I feel let down by my team. Like I have, one client who keeps calling about the same issue and we're saying the same thing over and over again. And they're just, this client is just not getting it.
Right.
No, wait, now how do we do this? Now, what's the next step? We've already told you the next step like 6 times, and you said you didn't want to do that. And you didn't want to spend the money. You said you didn't want to do this. But the reality of it is, I can't control that person.
Right.
They don't have the knowledge that my team has. They don't have the veterinary degree that you have, the years of experience. So in their head, they're not making it work. I can't control that. All I can say is, okay, how else can do you need it written down?
Right.
Do you need a pamphlet? Do you need me to send you a video?
Right.
How can I communicate it? But that's what I can do, right? Like let them be confused. Let me figure out a better way or say, you know what, this relationship just isn't working anymore.
Right.
So I think we need to be done,
Right.
which like that's the let me part.
Right.
So yeah, and what I really liked about this, and I don't know if you noticed it, is I feel like this really was based on, doesn't matter what trauma you've had.
Right.
What are you going to do now?
Right.
Like, I feel like a lot of books are like, okay, well, if your childhood was this or you were raised this way, blah, blah. Doesn't matter how you were raised. Doesn't matter what you like. What are you going to do now?
Right. And I think that kind of speaks to like the whole mindset part of it because it's like you can either let your life experiences define you or you can learn from them and then move forward in the way of your choosing. Like I have a hard time with and I don't want to sound heartless because I know everyone has different traumas in their life and they totally affect you and it can be very life altering. But there are people who choose to let that then dictate what their life looks like and constantly go back to that and aren't able to move past it. Or there are people who learn from it and then move on and say, I'm going to be the person I want to be in spite of those traumas, not because of those traumas. And I think a lot often, which my husband will probably be mad, but I'll say it in a general sense. So my husband's early childhood was not great. Like he was, his parents were super duper young. There were like some unsavory conditions. Like it wasn't great. He ended up being moved to live with his grandparents for a while, and then his dad got his life together, got remarried, and has become, a great dad and a much better situation. But there are so many people who would say, I had a really hard childhood and, saw people using drugs and had a really, really tough early age that that's why. That's my why. That's why
Right.
I have hard time sticking to things. That's
Right.
why I can't succeed and get ahead in life because I had so much trauma early on that it has just really affected me that now I can't move past it. And I feel like and I understand, again, I don't want to sound heartless because I feel like everybody's walk is a different walk and I can't like judge because sometimes it does truly affect you. But when I look at my husband, like there are kids that have been in the exact same situation that then never get anywhere in life because they can't move past it. Whereas he was like, well, I know what I don't want. Like I learned from that and I have this mindset of growth and looking to just be a better version of my early dad, who now is also much better, but where he was when he was young was not a good dad. And he's like, I know what I don't want to be. And then because of that, he's worked super hard. He went to college. He has an amazing degree. He's in management now in a pharmaceutical company. Like he's a really successful guy. We have a super happy marriage. We have a son who's amazing. And he is like a, a better dad than I'm a mom. And I think I'm a pretty good mom, but he's like an amazing father.
I
So,
understand that. My husband's the same way.
he's just so nurturing. And I'm just
Yeah.
like I am nurturing, but like in a different way. Like I'm a lot more sarcastic and like I like to push my son's buttons and stuff. Like he's just the most patient person I've ever met in my life. But anyway, so like I think about him all the time and how like his early years could have defined him. But instead, he's like this amazing human, like in spite of it. And I think that is like such a great example of learning from what you've been through and then being better because
Right.
of it instead of letting it define who you are. And he's like the last person to compare himself to others. He's always like, good for them. I'm just walking my walk and I'm staying in my lane. And like,
Right.
just because other people succeed doesn't mean then I can't succeed too. Like, that doesn't detract from my life at all. He's very good at that too.
Yeah. Well, I think that, so many times in the book, Mel Robbins says, if this is happening, go to therapy.
Yes.
Like, make a decision to say, whoa, I have not worked through that. I need to,
Right.
and get the help. Now you can go on your phone and get a therapist,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying there's not a cost to that. And I understand that for some people, like, that's not, a priority right at that moment. However, it's hard for a lot of people to move on until they've worked through that
Right.
because of the trauma. And we're not taught, she talks about this in the book, that we're not taught how to deal with our emotions as children,
No.
right? We are not taught how many people give each other the silent treatment. Oh,
Yes.
I'm mad at you. I'm just not going to talk to you. And what is that? That's a child pouting in the corner.
Yes. I
Like,
actually
that's what
loved
that
that
is.
section of the book because it was so relatable to
Yes.
adults when she was like,
Yes.
this child behavior this is what it looks like as an adult. And I was like, oh my
And I
God.
know that person. And I know the
Yeah.
person who throws a temper tantrum. And I know the person who tries to flip it around on you and make you feel guilty. Like all of this stuff. And it's because we weren't taught how to manage that as children, right?
Right.
So to me, that was huge because I was like, oh, number one, I need to do better with my kids. Number two, all right, I'm reading and I'm like, oh, my kids are going to need therapy so bad. What have I done? But also it helps you look at your team members.
Hmm.
That we have team members who I've been working on this with them for a long time. Like you can't just stop talking to people.
Right.
You still have to work with them,
Right.
but we don't know how to handle our emotions. And so whether you've had a serious trauma or not, some people haven't had, and that's great, fantastic. I grew up in a very loving home with two loving parents. They still live with me. I literally have spent 12 years of my life not living with my parents. Other than that, I lived with them or they lived with me. Like it's kind of codependent, but we have a great relationship. I know that that is not something that everybody has. And I
Right.
know that I'm blessed to have that. And it comes with struggles. I think that's another thing too, when we talk about like the comparison and stuff. People are like, oh, they have it so good. Oh, they're so lucky. Well, it's all hard. Do you get this a lot as a business owner? Like, oh, it must be so easy.
Yes.
I'm like, you don't even know how many times I'm over here on a Sunday just so I
Right.
can work without people bugging me. Like uh, it's not easy.
Right.
But we do that. We look at other people's lives and we go, oh, yeah, they have it so easy.
Right.
They don't, because everything on social media is just made to look great. But we know that that's not real.
Right.
So let them live their lives and let me live mine. And the other area that I really liked in this book was when she was talking about like with couples And one of the stories that she tells is about a couple where the wife is like super healthy and wants to eat healthy and all this, and
Mhm.
the husband comes home and sits on the couch and watches TV.
Right.
And so, how do you figure that out? And what are your non-negotiables?
Right.
Like, what do you say at this point? I am done.
Right.
Because it's very important, I think, for all of us to kind of know what our non-negotiables are. I think about how many times I go to conferences and I talk to people and they're so miserable in their jobs.
Mhm.
And I'm like, why are you there?
Right.
So sit down and come up with a list of non-negotiables. I am not going to stay here unless
Right.
I can feel safe in my workplace. I can feel appreciated. I get to learn new things. I can make more money. Whatever. And if they say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do that for you, then you have to be able to pull your pants up and say, okay, that was my non-negotiable. I'm done. So when
Right.
they're talking about this couple, for some people, if you're watching your spouse of however many years kind of let themselves go, at what point is it a non-negotiable? Or do you say, you know what? I'm okay with it. I love them. I am who I am. But then that means you can't keep nagging them.
Right. Right.
Let them and let you find your own joy going to the gym, eating, smoothies, whatever.
Right.
But at some point, it's the whole thing of you can't ever change somebody.
Right. They have to want to change.
Right.
Yeah.
And I watch some of my younger team members get in relationships and I'm like,
I know.
you're not like, are you in this relationship for who they are? Or are you in this relationship for who you think they can be?
Right.
Because that's a dangerous, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
I
people
know.
don't want to.
And in that whole section too, I feel like she threw something in there that was like an 80-20 rule. Like if 80% of the relationship is healthy and they do hit all of your non-negotiables, and then you're harping on them about the 20% of the things that like would be nice, like is that fair? That's like the grass is greener concept, where you're like striving for an unreasonable or unrealistic reality that doesn't exist. And I think that that's a huge driver of people being unfairly unhappy in some situations because this is like a
Right,
two-part problem. Like there's times where I think people have unrealistic expectations and they're comparing themselves to others in an unfair light and they're making themselves miserable, but they're really not being fair and that life is not perfect and they're not looking at the whole. And then the flip side of that is there are times where people are truly miserable in a situation that is truly not good, but all they're doing is complaining about it and they're not doing anything about it. And I feel like
right,
she speaks to like both of those situations really nicely. Where it's like, if you're in this situation, like you need to take a step back, reevaluate, use the let them theory to realize like you're comparing yourself to someone in an unfair, unrealistic way. And you
yep,
need to be more content with where you are because no one is ever going to be 100% perfect. Whether that's your significant other, your kids, your friends at work, like no one is perfect. It has to just be that your non-negotiables are met, and then sometimes you have to be more reasonable. And on the flip side, like if you're truly unhappy and you have voiced it, again, whether it is in any of those relationships, then okay, you let them not be what you need, but then let me do something about it instead of staying in like a miserable situation. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, life is way too short for that, way too short.
it is. And I think that's what really got me about, like, I was at the end, I listened through the whole book, even though I'm not dating. She has a whole part in there about dating and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And thank God, I just literally was like, thank you, sweet Lord, that I don't have to date
Oh my God,
because,
I know. I'd be horrible at dating. In
oh my
today's
God,
life, I'd be
oh,
horrible. It'd be
yeah.
awful. No
But
thanks.
she talked about the fact that like people were like, oh, they're sending you mixed signals. And she's like, no, that's not mixed signals. They
Right.
are telling you that you are not a priority to them,
Yeah.
right? They are telling you that no, I'm really not interested, but I'll show up at night if you want
Right.
me,
Right.
but I don't want a relationship. Like they're not sending you mixed signals, they're telling you who they are.
Right.
So you have to see that. And I think that we either I think you're exactly right, Beth. Like we're either making excuses or we expect them to be perfect.
Right.
And I'm not perfect.
No.
I
I
will
mean,
never be
I'm
perfect.
pretty close. I'm
Are
pretty
you? Oh, I know you have a great sense of humor because we talked about that before, that you have to be, you have to be funny. But
close.
like, I am the queen of unfinished projects. I cannot
Yeah.
tell you, I'm the least artistic person in the world. My whole office is filled with art because I'm not artistic. But I will for sure during COVID, I bought paintbrushes, paint. I was going to do those online things and they tell you how to paint. I think I have started one. My kids have now used up all of my paints and all of my canvases because I never finish anything. I
Yeah.
have cross stitch things that have been started. I have diamond painting things that have been started. I have Zentangle things that have been started. I never finish anything and I have these, but I go all in on everything. My husband, and he knows this about me, and he knows that I'm a Gemini. I am obsessive about stuff, and I get 100% in, and then that quickly I'm like, ooh, shiny light, and I'm
Yep.
off on something else. And so he'll jokingly say to me, like, oh, are we starting another project? But you know what? He loves me
Right.
and he lets me do it because he's like, you know what? This is just who you are. I asked him once, I'm like, do I drive you crazy? He's like, sometimes. But it's like he doesn't, because that's who I am.
Right.
I counted this morning how many pairs of sets of sneakers he has. We're at almost 50. That man buys workout shoes like it's nobody's business. But you know what?
Uh, right.
He doesn't have a lot of vices. He works his
Yeah.
ass off. If he wants to buy sneakers, buy sneakers.
Right.
Let him.
That's
That's
solidly in the 20% of like not that important. But it's
no.
amazing how many people make it important that they're
Yeah.
like, I have this amazing husband who is a great father and he does all these wonderful things and he's a hard worker and we have a really balanced relationship where we're happy. But he has this one stupid little thing that then they like hyper focus on and like make everything about it and make themselves miserable when it's like
He
not
leaves his socks on the floor. He puts his
right,
dishes in the sink and doesn't wash them. What, really? Like,
right.
right. I can't. Oh, God, I love this book.
I know.
Because,
I do too.
like, I'm listening to it and I'm like, yeah, okay, I might have been hard on him that time.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is so
it's
good.
so
And
good.
the one thing I actually wrote down, which isn't really applicable to me or you because we're married, but when she was talking about the dating thing, I wrote down that was like, if they like you, you'll know. If they don't like you, you'll be confused. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like filing this away for when people are having relationship problems to give advice because holy shit, like what a simple concept, but
Right.
like absolutely true because I think, and again, whether you're talking about a relationship with a significant other or even like a friendship, like there are
Yes.
absolutely times where you ignore red flags because of whatever reason, because they've been your friend forever, or you feel like you connect about XYZ, but there's all these other issues, or they never get back to you. You're always the one initiating everything. And people just like accept it, accept it, accept it. But like, why? Like, if they
Right.
like you and they want to spend time with you, they should be making you a priority. And like in your personal life, which I think does spill over into work life, but in your
Does.
personal life too, it's like so important to surround yourselves with people who are like your biggest cheerleaders, not your biggest.
Yes. Yes.
And that
Well,
kind of dubs into that.
I liked that she talked about people are in your life for different times,
Yeah.
right? Like I had a best friend in college that we were best friends immediately. And we were best friends for the 3 years I was at that school. And then I was in her wedding and then she was in my wedding and I literally have not talked to her since.
Yep.
I'm not mad at her. She's not
Right.
mad at me. It just was that moment
Right.
that we had what each other needed.
Right.
And I think that, right, when she talked about that, and I'm like, yes, she talked about what makes good friends, proximity,
Yep. Timing
interest, right, timing. Like
and
I,
energy. Yeah.
I have 3 children. One is about to go to college.
Right.
Okay. So sometimes, I have friends that have kids that are that same age, and we're all going through these visiting colleges and
Right.
then having our child make a choice and how far away are they going to go and how do we prep them for this, and so those are my friends right now. Will they stay friends, my friends forever? Probably not most of them.
Right.
But right now, that's what we have in common, right?
Right.
And, if you're married or not married, a lot of people who are not married don't have a ton of married friends
Mhm.
or vice versa because, oh, what do you mean you got to ask your husband if you can come? You shouldn't have to ask his permission. I'm not asking his permission. I'm letting him know that
Right.
I want to find out if he made dinner and I'm, messing that up. Like,
Right.
so it is interesting, and I do think that idea of right, if I'm confused,
Right.
if you're confused, then maybe there's something wrong here.
Right.
Walk
Right.
away.
And I feel like too, people spend a lot of time, which I get it. It is very hard when you go through a heartbreak or you were really close to someone and now you're not anymore, that we spend a lot of time like lamenting the loss. Whereas I feel like the let them theory tries to help you reframe that into celebrate what was, let it go because you're in a different place of your life that you need different things,
Right.
let them live their life and cheer them on from afar and move on. And you'll build other relationships of people who are in the same life cycle as you or the part of their life as you. And if you feel really strongly that that friendship should be there, then that's the let me. Like, okay, then I'm going to make an effort to reach out to that person instead of being mad that they didn't reach out to
Right.
me. I'm going to tell them the truth of how I really feel, that I'm upset that they haven't reached out to me. And either they genuinely want to be your friend, and then they will hear you and they will make a difference and you'll rekindle it. Or they won't, and then you know what? That shows you exactly the type of person that they are, and maybe they aren't worth the time and the energy.
Right.
And you should move on and find a friend that is more deserving of you who is going to appreciate you.
And you shouldn't beat yourself up. That was the other
Yes.
thing. She's like, and I think, and I will say that this as women, I think we are far more critical of ourselves. And
Yeah.
I'm not a man, so I don't know. But after talking
Yeah.
to my husband, he's like, God, why do you think of all this stuff? And I'm like, how do you not?
Yeah.
But it's like you sit there and question, why aren't they calling me? What did I do?
Right.
Why did this relationship end? What did I do? And I'm not saying that everything doesn't take two, right? Like
Right.
if a marriage ends, it was on both sides.
Right.
However, are you going to beat yourself up? Because unless you're going to really make some changes, like maybe the marriage ends because I drink too much.
Right.
Okay, well then that's on me. Am I going to change that? Or am I going to keep doing it? Because if you're going to keep doing it, then don't beat yourself up on it. And if you're going to change it, then make the change.
Right.
Do the steps that you need to make those changes. But I think that sometimes, to the friend thing, I have, I have a best friend that I have been friends with since I was 3 years old. She's basically my sister. And she lives in Ohio. I live in New Hampshire. We might only talk 2 or 3 times a year.
Right.
But that is one of those friendships that has stuck. I have no clue why. We
Right.
have very little in common. We never have. She's just it. But you know what? She's always cheering me on. I'm always cheering her on. If she needs help with somebody, she calls, I'm there, and
Right.
vice versa, right? Like those are the people that you want in your life. So
Right.
you nurture those relationships. But I think to a lot of it is that we don't think we deserve it,
Right.
you know, for whatever reason, like, oh, this person always blows me off. Well, I'm probably really irritating. And so that's why they blow me off.
Right.
Be you, 100% be you. And that's what I love the most about this book was at no point in time did she say you need to change fundamentally who you are.
Right.
She actually said you're probably not going to change fundamentally who you are.
And you
Now,
shouldn't.
whether you need therapy or you need to go into recovery or you need like some real serious help, that's something completely different.
Right.
But in general, I know I'm not everybody's person. That's okay. I don't expect to be. I have a team member who's leaving right now because my style of managing drives her insane. And I'm like, okay, that's totally fair.
Right.
Like I'm not a black and white person and all this. And so I think that we need to remember that I don't have to change who I am, but you have the right to change your situation.
Right.
So get out of that relationship, get out of that job. And at the end of the book, you wanted to really talk about this.
I do.
At the end of the
Yeah.
book, there are two like addendums that you
Yeah.
can download. One is how to use Let Them with your children, but the
Right.
other one is how to use Let Them at work.
Yeah. Which I really, really liked this chapter because I feel like this is such a helpful theory at work because even when I was reading the whole book, there were times where I was like, okay, yes, but like, what if you're in a situation where you can't leave and there's someone there that
I'm
you
gonna take my ball. I'm going home.
right. That there's someone there that like, okay, like let them, but like this person is an asshole and they're being an asshole and they work at my job and I can't leave that situation. Like, what do you do then? Which that whole chapter on the leading, oh, I really liked it. I think I'm gonna do like a workshop with my leadership team on it
Yeah.
because it like breaks it down really, really nicely. So I took a couple notes on it because I figured it'd be helpful. So it talks about your influence at work is your
Yes.
greatest asset, and that
Yes.
good leaders influence their team by leading by example, having a positive attitude, modeling the behaviors that you want to see in your team, and that there's a dramatic impact that you have and how you behave on how your team behaves, which is totally true. Like my team says all the time, that like when I'm on the floor seeing appointments, it's like a very different vibe than
Yep.
some of the other doctors. And not being negative about the other doctors, but like I have a pretty big personality, which I'm sure you can tell. And
What?
so they what? So when I'm on the floor, like when I'm back in pharmacy, they always play music for me because I sing along in like funny voices and then everyone laughs as they walk through pharmacy. Or like I will make a joke, literally like any situation is a joke opportunity in my
Sure.
and like I'll go into the appointment with the grumpiest curmudgeony old man and be like, I'm gonna make this guy laugh, and that'll be
Yeah.
like my goal of the appointment. So like I really lean into finding positive moments even on the most stressful days. And like you can see that in the team that if I'm out there looking for positive energy and creating positive energy, they all rise to that. And we get along
Yes.
better, and everyone works harder, and it's a better flow. And it's not perfect. There are days that it doesn't work, but generally speaking, yes. Versus if it's another day where there's a doctor who's like in a really bad mood or super grumpy, then like everyone around them is like grumpy and quiet and nobody wants to work together and everybody's miserable about everything and the flow is not as good. Now we're behind. Now they're more negative. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. Well, and I will say, we say that as leaders. I have said this for years in team meetings that every single person
Yes.
controls the attitude,
Yeah.
right? So if one person comes in and is in a bad mood, but the other 20 people are in a great mood on that shift, then that one person is probably, like you said, going to rise up,
Right.
right? But if you have multiple people that are in a horrible mood,
Right.
what do you expect to happen?
Right.
Right? Other people, it's just an anchor that's just sinking everybody down.
Yeah.
And so we have to take respect. What did she say? Self-awareness. Hang on. Self-awareness is your superpower.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is your superpower. And it
Yes.
is because I know that my attitude, my actions help or break my team.
Yep.
That's not just me as an owner. That's not just me as the practice manager. That's me as a human being.
Right.
And every single person has the ability to bring people up,
Yep.
you know? And what I love is when people are like, oh, I love working with so and so. She's always so positive. She's always so great, blah, blah, blah. So why aren't you like that?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you can be.
You can choose
Make
that
a
too.
decision.
Right. And I get really frustrated when like I think people sometimes poo-poo it. Like they sort of poo-poo the positive energy thing like it doesn't really matter. But there's so many studies behind it like
Yep.
proving that it does matter. Because I'll even find that at
Absolutely.
my team, like at our team meetings, I get a lot of eye rolls because I tend to talk about this stuff a lot. Like I tend to talk about it a lot. And so like they all like humor me, but I have some of my like, like sort of the like middle-aged guys that work for me are always like, okay, yeah, like I'm not gonna do some of the like whoop-de-doo positive bullshit that you're spinning. But like I still talk about it with them because I do feel like if they even take a little bit from it, and they are more, the self-awareness thing is kind of where I'm going. Like if you are at least more self-aware that like how you behave and your attitude at work does matter, that
Absolutely.
already makes a huge difference. And I think there are so many veterinary teams out there that just don't talk about it, and they
Right.
just sit in that discomfort, and there's this one miserable person that ruins the entire team, and no one ever talks about it, no one ever does anything about it, and it's not addressed, and it literally kills your culture. Like it totally
Yes.
does, and it brings your team down so much. And like, yes, I know you're supposed to like leave your attitude at the door and come in and just do your job, but that's so like, I feel like that's so antiquated. Like that's not a real thing. Like we're all
No.
humans, and we are going to bring our fucking baggage because that's part of
Yes.
who we are. So you have to learn how to like minimize it into compact little things that are going to not impact you greatly at work,
Right.
or deal with it so that way you can offload it or channel it into like positive ways. And like that's one of the things that I talk about with my team really all the time. That
Oh, yeah.
how they behave truly does matter. Every interaction
And
matters.
you can feel it. The clients feel it. The
Yep.
patients feel it.
Yes.
We are here. It's funny that you said that because my team will be like, oh, this is going to be one of Jenny's TED Talks. That's what they call them, is my TED
Yes.
Talks. Because I'm like, listen.
Yes.
Um, yeah, our patients feel the energy.
Yep.
To what you talked about, with the studies and stuff, your positive energy, you're manifesting. And I'm not saying like, sage your veterinary practice and hang crystals everywhere. I'm saying be a positive force. And
Right.
I will tell you that our patients, when we are in a mood, when it's one of those like rough days, we have more patients who are anxious and afraid,
Yep.
right? Like I find that we're like, okay, let's talk about the chill pills. Let's talk about our happy cocktails, da 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 da. When we're all in a really good mood, the dogs come in wagging their tails. Cats
Yep.
still hate us, but that's because they're cranky as
Well,
all
because
get
they're
out.
cats.
Right. You can't change others, right? You cannot change a cat's attitude. Like, I don't
No,
care.
you can't.
But I mean, you can try, but they're usually like, yeah, bite me.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to bite you. But I think that our animals, our patients feel it. And I think at the end of the day, we got into veterinary medicine to take care of the animals and to take care of the people with them,
Right.
right? Like that's our goals.
Right.
And then, our jobs as owners is to take care of our teams and for
Right.
them to take care of each other.
Right.
So if we can come up with this, and it's so funny because I've been talking about this book at my team meetings, and I have quite a few that have listened to it or
Mhm.
are listening to it. And so now I'll have one of my team members come into the office and she's like, Jenny, let them. And I'm like, okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, yes, let them. And now
Right.
what are you gonna do? And she's like, just breathing. And then she'll walk off. But that's her internal mantra now
Yeah.
is let them. And she's getting fake tattoos to put on her wrist so that she
Oh,
can
that's
look at
awesome.
it and be like, let them.
Yep. It's
But
true
I
though.
think it's so powerful.
And so one of the last sections I want to just touch on is
Yes.
in the at work part. She talks
Hmm.
about, I think it was like eight, there was a study that was done on like what makes for the most effective teams. It was like the end of the chapter.
Yes.
And the number one by far thing that made for an effective and cohesive team was psychological safety, which I wish Phil was here for this because
I
that's like one of
know.
his really big things, which he
Right.
actually has not read this book. And I recommended it to him when I told him we were doing this podcast. So he is reading it now or read it.
I'm going to email him right now and be like,
Yeah,
Phil.
because it's totally
Yeah,
his wheelhouse. But
absolutely. Absolutely.
I found it really interesting that that study like hammered home the psychological safety thing, because I think
Yep.
so many of the other interactions at work, whether they go well or they go poorly, are driven by how those people feel in that moment. Are they brave enough and confident enough to say how they really feel? Are they willing to fail at something knowing that they won't be judged and they'll be supported? Or
Right.
are they going to be judged and they're going to be talked down to? And then those people are way less likely to take risks, to speak up, to
Mhm.
innovate. Like that's like a killer of the team if people don't feel that they're going to be supported no matter the outcome. Like we should be celebrating failures as long as they're not making a patient unsafe. We should
Right.
be celebrating failures as much as we do successes so that people feel confident to make a
Right.
mistake. And instead of belittling them about it, we then pivot to, okay, what did we learn from this? What can we do differently next time? And I found that
Right.
to be really interesting. Like I've heard that before, but she like reiterated the
Yeah.
psychological safety being that, such a huge part of what makes a team work well together, that they feel confident and comfortable enough around another to be their true selves and to say how they really feel and to speak up in situations that, and at the end of the day, help the team work better together.
Absolutely. I think too, to your point, like you were saying, like, what if there's an asshole at work and I can't leave?
Right.
If everybody's keeping their mouths shut, and again, you know this because when you're on the floor, everything's great. When
Right.
I'm on the floor, everything's great. I don't
Right.
know that there's a problem. All the gossiping stops, all
Yep.
the, the negative chitter chatter, it stops when I'm there because they know I'm not going to put up with it.
Right.
So they comfortable coming to me and telling me this. And we had a situation come up. My team is very, very close. I mean, they're in each other's weddings. It is such a pain in the butt because, like, when some big event is happening, they all ask for time off. And I'm like, guys, somebody has to work, but they just love each other so much. And we had a team member that everybody loved. She was a great team member, but she had some issues. She stole something. She stole drugs from us.
Uh,
Three of her very good friends, well, two of them went to my lead tech, and my lead tech, who was very close with her, came to me crying and upset and shaking. But she knew that this was not okay. And they all were going to stand up for what they knew was right.
yeah.
And they knew that they weren't going to get in trouble. And they knew that, I'm not going to like make them guilty by association.
Right.
You want a team that is loyal to each other and loyal to the practice,
Right.
and if they don't feel safe, if they feel like, right, all of a sudden everything's going to be locked up, everything is going to change it because one decision that one person made,
Right.
like, that's not the right way to handle it. The right way to handle it is, okay, well, that person was obviously let go. We changed our locks. We had a conversation as a team together
Right.
and said, guys, this is unfortunate, but I really appreciate you guys being loyal and letting me know.
Right.
And I'm sorry that she put you in that situation, and we went through it together. But feeling safe to write when you're having a bad day,
Hmm.
do you feel safe to come in and be like, hey guys, I am not my best today?
Right.
And then everybody else is going to be like, we're there with you.
Yep.
Or are they just going to beat you down? If so, leave that practice.
Right.
But it is so huge, the psychological safety. And I'm so glad that we're talking about it as a veterinary community.
Yes.
I'm glad for all the work that Phil has done to bring attention to it. And right, this has so much to do with that on how you can, the whole point of the chapter, the working chapter, the book is really what can you control and what can't you?
Right.
It's really like that simple, and accepting what you can't control
Right.
and then doing something about the stuff that you can.
Right.
And I hope that all the people listening to this or watching this are in a situation, in a workplace where they do feel like they're safe enough to be a part of a team as their true selves.
Right.
Because I feel like you're probably, like you already said, you had to put a sign on your door because people are in and out all the time. Same here, like we don't have boundaries. Like the boundaries are real faded here.
Yeah. They're loose. They're loose.
It's a whole different topic, that I have
Yeah.
been blasted on before for not having enough boundaries. But you know what? I like it. That's my culture. That's the way that it is. And if my team feels comfortable coming to me and, telling me what their issues are or telling me what's going on in their lives, then I feel like I've done something well. And I think the whole point of this book, I hope that this conversation has encouraged more people to read this book
Yes, that's
because
what I was going to say. Everyone should just read this book. I think it will make
listen
you
to
a
it.
better human.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and take it to heart. You
Yes.
know, I think it's really easy to read books and then you move on to the next one and then you move
Yeah.
on to the next one. And, but I find like Brene Brown, I love her
Yes.
stuff, Dare to Lead. I made changes in my life for that.
Yeah.
This book is a relatively simple concept,
Yep.
right? Let them, let me. I can't control that. I can control me.
Right.
But it's not easy in that, like, you have to make changes. You have to say, let them. I
Right.
can't control this. Does this really affect me in the moment?
Right.
Because maybe it doesn't, and I need to just, okay.
Right.
You know, it's not about allowing injustices to happen. It's not about allowing bad things to happen and not doing anything about it. But what can you do?
Right.
I think is the point. So
Yeah.
I just,
It's not lamenting on the things that you can't control, but like pivoting to the things you can. You can control your mindset, you can control your emotions, you can control your behavior. And then if there's
yes,
a situation that is an injustice that you can't stand by, that's where the let me part of it is you stand up and you say something, or you leave that job that's making you miserable, or you leave
right.
that partner that's making you miserable versus, is this a hill worth dying on? Is this something that I need to be this upset about? Practice that pause of like really evaluating why you're behaving the way you're behaving and is it really worth it? You know? So much.
No, I can't agree more.
I know. So
Best book
read the
ever.
book. Read the book. The moral
Read
of the story is everyone should read this book because there is just so much from it that is just helpful in every aspect of your life to make you happier, more well-rounded, more satisfied.
More satisfied is really what it is. It's finding
Yeah.
that joy. This
Yeah.
book is about finding your joy, is really what it comes down to.
Yep.
And I think you and I should get matching Let Them tattoos.
I'll do it. I have plenty of tattoos. There's always room for another one.
I'm like, okay, I can get one right here.
Yeah.
I know
I've got
I'm
space
starting to run
over
out of room a
here.
little bit, but
Yeah.
I have spots. Yeah, we'll get like the forehead. Let them.
That
That
perfect.
that might be a little unprofessional, but
Little aggressive on the forehead. I'm sure we can find a slightly more subtle place that's just as
maybe.
impactful.
Who needs subtle? Well, we thank you very much for listening. We hope
Yes.
that you like and subscribe. And Beth, this was so much fun.
Yes, I enjoyed it
I'm
very much.
glad we get to geek out together
I
on
know.
Let.
Now we'll have to do a podcast about romanticides. And we might need a slightly different audience, though.
Although maybe not.
Maybe
Maybe
not.
listen, if you guys listening really want us to do a romanticides podcast, just let us know because then we can say, look, guys, there's a need for
This
this.
is what our viewers want. They want us to talk about ACOTAR. They want
Right.
us to unpack Throne of Glass. They want us to just really dive into these really impactful, series.
Everything by Sarah J. Maas, Jennifer Armentrout,
Yeah,
all of them.
girl. I've read all
Oh,
of them.
oh, God. Okay, well, that's a different one.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. It's not a podcast if we don't do our
that's
princess wave.
true.
That's
Goodbye,
that. So
everyone. Thank you for
thank you. And we'll see
listening.
you next time.